Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on in another event as part of our first gen series, How to Be Career Ready in Uncertain Times. We're joined by wonderful alumni and professionals who are first gen or are supportive of first gen students, and they're here to give you tips and advice on your career, on graduate school. So let's just give a warm welcome to our guests. Okay, to kick things off, there's going to be a survey. We just want to capture your thoughts about how you're feeling right now. So we have 2 quick questions just to get a sense of what your thoughts are right now. And we're going to close at the end of the event with 2 quick questions. So if you go to menti.com and put in that code 827808 and 3, you can share your thoughts. And this is totally there are no names associated, so you can share your thoughts if you're comfortable. So how confident are you in being career ready during these uncertain times? So again, just to answer these quick questions, go to menti.com and type in the code 827808 and 3. Okay, and this is just our way to just get a pulse of what you're thinking and at this time. Okay, welcome everybody. So just wait a few more minutes for this slide and then we'll move on to the next question.
8278. Oh, 82.
And I can put it in the chat box as well. So www.menti.com and the code is 827808 and 3. Right. Thank you for those of you that are just sharing what you're thinking right now. Okay, so if you're just joining, we'd love to just get your quick thoughts. Just go to menti.com and enter the code. It's also in the chat box. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Okay. Okay. And then in a minute, we'll go to the next slide so you can answer the next question. Okay. So the next question is, how confident are you in initiating a networking conversation and relationship with an alumni and working professional to support your career readiness? We all hear that it is a lot about who you know, and connecting is important. How confident do you feel? So if you can just share your thoughts by going to menti.com and type in the code 827808 and 3. Okay. All right. So while you're answering the question, I'd just like to introduce. So again, if you're just joining, welcome to How to Be Career Ready in Uncertain Times as part of our first generation career series. This is a series, there's 2 other events that are coming up. So definitely check that out on Handshake. And I'd like to take this moment to introduce our wonderful team. We'll start with Irma, who is one of the leads of the planning team.
Hi, I'm Irma Moreno, and I'm one of the career counselors at the Career Center and working with pre-health students.
All right, and one fun fact,
One fun fact is for years, it's been a couple years, but I used to swim in the bay over in San Francisco outside of the Ghirardelli Square Aquatic Park.
Very cool. Thanks, Irma. Kelly, our other lead of the first gen team.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelly. I'm one of the career counselors on the LNS team. Primarily, I support pre-law students. So if any of you are interested in law school, feel free to follow up with me after. And one fun fact, I'm a first-gen Cal graduate. I'm originally from the 626 area. So if you have any folks from the 626 area in LA, nice to have you all here today.
Thanks, Kelly. Mike.
Everyone, great to see you. My name is Mike Harris. I'm also a career counselor. I support mostly the engineering and physical sciences students. And a fun fact is, as you can tell, I have an accent. I grew up in South Africa, but also spent time living in Japan.
Oh. All right, thank you. And Juan.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Juan here. I will be doing the Zoom tech support here. And yeah, I help with the graphics, designs, purchasing, and other things for the office. And I'm from LA, since we're talking about where we're from. I'm from LA, born and raised. Yeah.
All right, and I'm Heidi. I'm one of the LNS counselors, and I hail from New York City. So it's really nice to be able to be across the country, be able to meet wonderful colleagues and students. So nice to meet you. Now we're gonna open it up and just welcome our wonderful panelists. So each panelist is going to say their name and what they do and name their fun fact. So we'll kick it off with Nicole.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Nicole Whittaker. I am the Dean of Students at Holy Names University, so not too far from Cal, just a couple freeway exits away off the 13. I was an architecture major when I was in undergrad at Cal, and fun fact about me, I love trivia. I am a trivia nerd. I'm okay at it. I wouldn't say that I'm like great at it, but I'm okay at it. With a good team, you can win.
All right, thanks, Nicole. We'll go to Brandon.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brandon Medueno. I majored at UC Berkeley at the Haas School of Business. Currently working as account executive over at Salesforce. Really missing the big Salesforce tower during these times. Fun fact about me is the car I grew up driving was a Volkswagen VW bus, and love kind of car restorations and the VW family.
Very cool. Thanks, Brandon. Javier.
Hello, everyone. My whole name is Floriberto Javier Garcia Cortez. It's kind of long, I know. I go by Javier, and I'm one of the LNS college advisors at Berkeley. I went to UC Davis, and for my major, I did sociology. And one fun fact is that when I was a child, some of my cousins and I would get together and we would like pretend that we were musicians. So when I was 16 years old, I learned how to play the trumpet, and I played it for 1 year.
All right, thanks, Javier. We'll kick it over to Paulina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paulina Lynn. Or what is it? What major first, I guess. Like Brandon, I did business administration at Haas when I was in Berkeley. I'm currently with PwC, a director in our San Jose office. So I do auditing. I audit a lot of the big tech firms. And a fun fact, I was born in Thailand. My parents escaped Vietnam, and I was born in the refugee camps. So, fun fact.
All right, thanks, Paulina. We'll kick it to Adonta.
Great, thanks, Heidi. Hi, everyone. My name is Adonta Hannu. I am the Senior Director of Program for an organization called Co-op Careers, which is a nonprofit focused on overcoming underemployment for recent college graduates. And a fun fact is, so I used to be a gymnast growing up. So on a good day, I can still do a backflip. And on a bad day, I end up in the ER.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Adonta. We'll go to Tessa.
Thanks, Heidi. Hi, everyone. My name is Tessa. I am a first generation college graduate. So I graduated from Cal in 2005 with a history degree. I am currently the Director of Industry Relations and Partnerships for Beneficial State Foundation. We're located here in Oakland, and our goal is to change the banking industry and have the banking industry be more responsive and adopt social and environmental initiatives and practices that will benefit everyone.
Right. Thanks, Maritessa.
Is I'm learning how to juggle. So there are a lot of tennis balls in my apartment now. So that's what I do to keep myself busy these days.
That's really cool. Thanks, Maritessa. And last but not least is Joe.
Hey everyone, Joe Sid Vista here, as well as all of the other panelists, or most of them. I am also first-gen college grad. First to attend college, I went to Berkeley in 2007 to 2011. So it's about 10 years almost since I've graduated in actually ethnic studies and French language. So an LNS grad here. I'm currently a strategy and experience manager for SAP. It's a global business-to-business software solutions company. What does experience and strategy look like? So I focus on internal programs, so young tech talent. I focus on employee engagement campaigns that includes our global developers kickoff meeting, things of that sort. Fun fact around me with sheltering in place, I have relaunched and overhauled my cooking blog. So I have an associate's in culinary arts. So if you'd like to follow me, it's called The Other Trader Joe. All of my ingredients are sourced at Trader Joe's. So if you're one who frequents it, feel free to follow, and then also reach out to me if you want any ingredients or recipes.
Thanks, everyone. You've got some awesome fun facts. I need to step up my game. All right, so we're going to go into questions. If you do have questions, just pop them into the chat box. We'll try to answer them in the Q&A, and if we don't get to them, you can certainly ask them in our breakout rooms. So we go to our first question, which will be to Joe, Paulina, and Maritessa. How can I be competitive when I don't have as many internships or jobs that other students may have, especially during this time when employers may not be hiring as much? So maybe we can start with Maritessa.
Great, thanks, Heidi. For this question, I had to really think about it because I run a summer fellowship program on behalf of my organization. And this year we had the highest number of applicants from students across the country. And it was a very different year to recruit because there were students who were applying for multiple positions, students whose positions have been rescinded. And my organization was trying to, at the same time, focus on the well-being of current employees. And I think there are companies that rescinded offers. There are companies that had hiring freezes. So it was a very tough year, and there are even a lot of layoffs, frankly. But I think companies have gotten used to having employees work from home remotely. And so that may be an advantage for students who have gotten used to studying from home remotely. And I think we have to really think beyond just the number of internships or the number of jobs the student may have on his or her or their resume, because it's a very unprecedented year. And for us, we actually look beyond a student's resume. We wanted to see, or we wanted to learn more about a student's history, how they are able to tell, how what they have done, what their contributions were. So I think it's more about holistically looking at what your strengths are. Can you have a compelling argument, compelling story, and being able to package it in a really good way. So even though it may not seem like companies are hiring right now, there are actually other companies I've been speaking to are leaning towards having positions next spring or summer. So, I think part of it is having hope and continuing to do what you're doing your background research, doing your networking, and the jobs will eventually be there. So that's kind of my piece of advice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Joe, how about you?
Yeah, it was similar to Mary Tessa. I think this is a really interesting question coming from the employer side, right, or from a corporation, like I think it's twofold, right? And so to give an answer in two sections, the first is internally, right? Similar to Tessa, we're trying to shift the needle and mindset of what employers and what managers are looking for when they're hiring talent, right? And one of the key fundamentals that I think really could maybe translate to maybe some of your efforts in the job hiring process is we're trying to look at passion over pedigree. And when it comes to pedigree, it's not only the institution that you come from, but more importantly, like these organizations or companies that you worked for or that you interned in your professional past. You know, some of you are able to pick up these skill sets through just passion. And that kind of leads to my second section, which is then you owning maybe opportunities that maybe aren't already there, especially with now sheltering in place. I've seen a lot of students be very creative in efforts that they're making when it comes to building skill sets. So this might be cross-institutional collaboration when it comes to hackathons. And this might not only be tech-focused hackathons, these could also be business-focused or social-focused hackathons. For example, there was one that I was just an advisor on a few weeks ago with the school for UNC Chapel Hill that focused on one key aspect was BLM and the other one was on voter suppression. And so they wanted to bring in students not only from the tech sphere, right, in creation of apps or technology, but at the same time, like really leaning on to their like political science or sociology specific or minded students on creating that insight as well. So I say it to say, I think it's twofold, right? Organizations and companies and corporations need to hold themselves accountable in switching mindset and passion over pedigree. And at the same time, like we want to also kind of challenge students to look outside of what the kind of normative is of internships. Yeah, they're out there. For example, our company still has our running intern program, but you know, we're at a privilege, right? There are other amazing companies that unfortunately had to cut those things. And you know, I think for you all, yes, go ahead and look for those opportunities, but at the same time, don't be scared to like think, use that like creative mind that you all have, and then create these opportunities amongst one another, because those will go above and beyond, especially if we work collaboratively with what we're trying to do internally and shifting that mindset.
Thank you, Joe. Paulina.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with the fellow panelists who spoke. I mean, when I was applying for my full-time position, I ran into this, right? Like it was, everyone had their own internship. I didn't. And I had to really reflect back on, well, how can I show the firms that I am ready? And I think the biggest part is what Mary Tessa touched upon is the way you package it, right? Like, don't underestimate your experience. I was really heavily involved in student activities, student groups, and like some people can just look at that and be like, well, that's not relevant to the business world. And I got that a lot, but then I was able to be like, well, no, it is. In these student orgs, I manage how many people, you know, like I work in a group of such and such, I mentored such and such, you know, students. And it's more of making sure the skills that you are gaining from your experience in these maybe less than traditional ways is transferable to, hey, you know, you would want me as in this job because look, I have experience and here's how I've showed leadership. Here's how I've showed that I've worked with people. Here's how I've showed that I'm innovative. I really like what Joe's saying too, because I do agree on the firm side, we are looking at candidates who are very different, not the whole cookie cutter anymore. So if you look at what's important to these companies now, right, like tech enablement is a big thing. So how do you upskill yourself by maybe taking a course? So instead of like doing, you know, internships that you typically would see this route, you're doing different things outside of the box and making sure that when you do package yourself to the employers, that's like, hey, look, I'm a full package and here's how my skills are transferable and relatable to exactly what you're looking for. So that to me is more important, and don't underestimate your experiences thus far, because I'm sure all of you have different experiences. And even if you think back at, okay, like maybe just having a regular job, you know, as a retail, but you can still take some of that and turn it and say, here's like the skills I've learned that will make me a good candidate.
Thank you so much. A lot of times students share I think when they don't know their skills, often when they share their challenges, that's where I can hear a lot of strengths and skills coming out. So that is probably a great place to start. And I know many first gen students, they overcome so many challenges to get to where they are. So Adonta and Brandon, what were the challenges that you had to overcome in your career?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy to start. I'll just name kind of two challenges that come to mind for me, although there are many, and I know we have other panelists to get to. So I think one is, so prior to working in the nonprofit sector, I actually worked in the private sector. And for a very long time, I was realizing I was following the path that my family wanted me to follow because it was the most financially stable. And it's a path that a lot of colleagues who I was working with wanted me to follow because they saw me rising up in this specific field, which was insurance at the time. And the more and more I dug deep, I realized that's not where I was happy, and I was kind of living and doing this work for other people. And so a quote that I've often reflected on is, "Are you brave enough to disappoint others to be true to yourself?" And so at a certain point, I started thinking about what would it be like when I'm the oldest of my siblings. My parents are both, one's from Uganda, one's from Nigeria. And so a lot of the experiences that I had, especially graduating and even going to college, was very new because I was the first of my siblings to even be in that experience. And I think there was a lot of pressure financially for me to support my parents in certain ways. And so I had to do a lot of soul searching and thinking and networking to understand what is a nonprofit world really like. I assumed that I wouldn't be able to survive on a nonprofit salary, but I really was committed to doing what I loved. And so I waited for about a year where I talked to a lot of mentors, my personal board of directors that I'll talk about later, that really helped challenge me. And a mentor in insurance said to me, "Adonta, insurance will always be here. There will always be accidents. If for some reason you realize that the nonprofit space was not right for you, you can always come back," which so far I have not gone back. But that's one challenge that I overcome, just pushing myself to just follow the path that was true to me. And it's been incredible for my family to now, they were initially very disappointed in my decision, but now I've been able to grow in my career to still be able to give back financially to my family while also doing what I love. And the other quick one I'll highlight is just saying no. I've always been a yes person, and that's definitely led to burnout. And so I'm still working on it, but I've definitely over my career gotten better at learning how to balance and think about, by me saying yes to other things or other people, am I then saying no to myself, and what things am I saying no to myself on? And I think as someone who, actually I'll pause there because I want to make sure we get to our other panelists. But yeah, that's just something else that I'm constantly thinking about. And I've done a lot of work to figure out how I can say yes, but not right now to a project versus saying yes to everything right now when it's not realistic for my plate.
Thanks a lot, Adonta. Brandon, what about your challenges?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to kind of Adonta's challenges. I think as a first generation student and, being the eldest, child in the household, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on you to, kind of create this new path that no one has been there before. And I feel like the two challenges that are very related to and have the same thing as what Adonta shared is, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I feel like I'm constantly asking myself that question. And I graduated back in 2013. So, always challenge yourself to think, what you want to do. And if you don't know, it's okay. But, talk about why you're interested in X position or X company. I feel like if you have a good story about, around the why, what excites you about the position, what you've heard about, but you don't know, it's okay to say, I really don't know, but this is why I'm interested. And a lot of the times you really don't know what's involved in what your day-to-day is until you're, 3 to 6 months in a role. And sometimes it'll be a fit, sometimes it won't be a fit. And again, the second challenge that I really struggle with even until today is tenure at a company. I've had 4 different jobs since I graduated college, and the only sane kind of reference that I have is my parents who didn't go to college have been at their employers for their whole life. One's in construction, one's a travel agent, and so I think tenure and being loyal to a company is changed a bit. There's just so much happening out there, and again, it all struggles with what do you want to do when you grow up. And if you get into a job, don't think that you're going to be stuck there. There's tons of opportunities out there, but it's going to be you're going to know really quickly what challenges you and what you're passionate about. And If you don't find that in your first job, that's okay. Don't get discouraged because there's tons of more opportunity out there. So I said those are really the two challenges that I've continued to battle is what do I want to do when I grow up, and do I have to get that at one employer, or can I get that by working and building on multiple experiences?
Thank you both for sharing. At this time, as students are considering what they want to do, and especially with an uncertain economy, a lot of students are talking to us about graduate school and whether that should be an option. So, what do you think, what would you recommend for students who are thinking about graduate school right now? And what did you consider when you decided to go to graduate school, Nicole and Javier?
I'm happy to jump in. And I'll preface what I say by saying that I'm an educator, so I'm probably a little bit biased, but I know that the market right now is competitive in ways that are probably really discouraging. When I graduated from Cal, I graduated into the last recession. And so I'm pretty intimately aware of how that can impact new grads and not just your ability to find gainful employment, but to feel as if it's even attainable. It can be really discouraging to not hear back or to not get the answers. And so grad school is often where people defer, basically. If you can't find what you need in an employment setting, then the next logical step is to go back to school. And I feel a few ways about that. For me, I took about a 5-year gap in between undergrad and grad school because I really wanted to know why I was going back to school. I didn't want to just go for the sake of going. I needed to know what career path I was going to take. And as I mentioned, I majored in architecture in undergrad. I'm very clearly not an architect. I am in higher ed. And so it took a little while for me to figure out that was going to be my path. And so I didn't go back to grad school until then. But then I went twice. I went for a master's and then for a doctorate because I had found, where I really wanted to be. And so the thing that I think is important for folks to know about grad school is that it's really your niche moment. It's your moment to find the thing that is going to continue to feed you and give you the skills that you want to learn and pass on to whatever job market. So focus less on like what to major in and focus more on what you want to learn. For me, it was not just about being able to be an educator, but being able to lead organizations. And so I found kind of like a hybrid of both. So that would be my recommendation. It's always a good idea to continue and commit to lifelong learning, whether it's in a formal degree program or not. But don't just go back just to go back. And look for the right opportunity, wait for the right opportunity, consult your mentors, consult people you trust, because those are going to be the folks who can speak to your own skill set and kind of coach you towards how to make the right decision.
Thank you, Nicole. Javier.
Oh, hey again. So, graduate school is great. And one of the things to consider is, you should ask yourself is how does graduate school align with your future goals? So that's number one. So oftentimes, we say like, oh, I want to go to graduate school, but we don't even know why. And if we are able to identify the reasons why we want to go to school, why we want to pursue a specific field, it's going to help you a lot to go through that process, because it's a process. You're going to be in, there are some programs that are like 1, 2, or 3 years. So it depends on like, the length of the program, how many units you take, and so on. So it's important to identify, like the reasons why you want to go, you want to pursue your master's. So, and another things to, to keep in mind are going to be, okay, so this is what I want to do. And another question is like, how am I going to apply this, or I can use this in the future? Because one thing is getting to school, graduating, okay, but now what? What am I going to do with this? So it's important to consider those things, those aspects. So at the same time, thinking about like right now, like, out there getting a job is going to be, it's challenging, that's for sure. And graduate school is something to consider. So, but also think about, like the financial aspect. For graduate school, there's no financial aid. You may be eligible for some university grants the university may offer, may or may not. So look into that. If you are financially stable right now, like it's great. You can go, do your research, what programs, tuition, housing. If you're living at home with parents right now, it's great. So think about 2 or 3 more years, you're gonna be paying tuition. If you live on your own, you support yourself, hey, okay. So think about like what financial assistance does that university offer? So, and why you want to go to that specific program, institution, and city. So you need to look into all these things. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Javier. I know a lot of times students share that they have feelings that they're not enough, and they're also struggling with imposter syndrome. So Joe and Adonta, what advice would you have for students who are feeling this way, and how can you overcome those feelings? We'll start with Joe.
Yeah, I think, okay, well, first things first, imposter syndrome, at least from my experience, never goes away. But there are ways in which you can then limit it from then overwhelming you from reaching whatever success it is you want to make. From personal experience, 2 things or strategies that I love to do whenever I'm having those doubts or feeling of unworthiness is, one, as corny as it might sound, positive affirmations of yourself, especially when you're going to something that's unknown, is really big for me. I love staring at myself in the mirror and telling myself, Joe, you can do this. Like, Joe, you have the skill set. Perhaps even creating a list of the things that you excel at as to why they've been inviting you into that space. And I think that last thought itself then lends itself to the second strategy, is a quick shift in mindset in knowing you know what you know, and they invited you into that space because you know it. Right? Whether it is a job interview, whether it's a new role that you've gotten hired into, whether it's a speaking engagement like this, right? Like there are certain aspects that you know that they see in you, and that is why they're inviting you they're inviting you into that space. So what have you got to lose, right? Like, yes, there might be more chips on the table if you're maybe applying for a position or an internship, but it's better to then take the risk and then go into it, because the worst they can say is no, then rather than living in the forever what if, right? And so say it all to say, the 2 strategies that I love to do is, of course, positive affirmation and listing your strengths. And then more importantly, like, you know what you know. All of you are, going off into your own successes and journeys in life. And so when they do invite you to these spaces, it's because they see something in you, whether it's potential or specific skill set. So I like those 2 help kind of minimize that imposter syndrome, that little ghoul that always sits on my shoulder. It's gotten smaller and smaller, I think, in the years. And that's just because I've done a tactful use of some of these strategies.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Adonta.
Yeah, no, that was great. I echo so much of what Joe just shared. That was the first thing I was going to say was, like, I have not overcome imposter syndrome, but I've learned different ways to manage it. I think often the 3 times that this will come up for me the most, one is if I feel like I'm the youngest person in the room, or I feel like I'm being treated as if I am, and therefore my age is then trying to determine my expertise. That is one. If I am the only person who identifies as female, I found myself at times caving in, and I'm pushing myself to be more brave in that space. And then also in spaces where I've been the only in terms of my race, which happened a lot when I was in the private sector. And I think often I would hold myself to such high standards and expectations that if there's one thing that went wrong, or if I got one piece of growth area feedback, I would just like break down. And I was like, I'm the worst, I don't deserve to be here. And I think one thing I mentioned earlier was like my personal board of directors, which essentially is people in my life. Some are from elementary school, some are mentors from college, some are friends who I grew up dancing with. It's a mix of people in my life, and that it shifts over time, who I have like a core group of like 7 people that at any point in my life I can reach out to, and they're able to look me straight in the face and say like, calm down, or provide me, they're like that big champion for me, but they're also there when I'm in my head, and they can just pull me out and say like, you are amazing, you've got this, you deserve to be there. And so having those people that are genuinely my champions, that has been a huge win for me. And I just caught up with a friend this weekend who kind of gave me that positive affirmation through something from last week. And then similarly to what Joe mentioned, one of the things I started doing a few years back was having a gratitude folder. So in my personal email inbox, one of my folders is named gratitude. And anytime I receive a text message or an email or a note that just feels good and makes me feel valued in what I bring to the table, I will send it to that folder. So that when I am in my head and having that bad day, I look through that folder and remind myself, okay, like you are making the impact that you want and you are doing well. And actually Mike Harris, who's on the call right now, one of your amazing counselors, I just checked and I even have him in my gratitude folder from when we worked together, a note that he had shared with me at one point. It really resonated. And so that's my gratitude folder. And so that's something that I encourage all of you to consider doing. It's definitely helped me in those tough moments.
Thank you so much, Adonta. I'm going to go to the final question for all of our panelists before we go into breakout rooms to have to talk and get advice from our panelists. So the last question is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to first generation students to help them be career ready during these uncertain times? So let's start with Nicole.
Sure. I mean, I think my my default answer is to tap into your network. I like to refer to mine as my brain trust. So, you know, I invest in my brain trust by surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, people who understand kind of the landscape of what is ahead in our career, and but also people who know me and know my strengths and can remind me, can be a part of, you know, getting that ghoul off the shoulder that Joe was talking about when the imposter syndrome sinks in. So really tap into your network and don't be afraid to ask for support, ask for help. If anybody offers, you know, most people will say it and you think it's not genuine, but most folks are not going to say it if they aren't going to follow up. And a lot of times people don't reach out, people don't check in, people don't follow up because they're anxious or nervous. So, you know, believe it when we put it out there and take advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you, Nicole. How about Tessa?
Thank you. I would say take advantage of the resources at the Career Center and also the Cal Network. I got my first job simply because of a cold email I sent to a Cal alum in Sacramento, and he took the time to meet with me, who then referred me to another job that I eventually was offered. So I would say use the resources because they're there, and there are so many great Cal alum doing incredible things, and I just think the network's so good that it's so underutilized.
Thank you. Paulina.
Yeah, something I always think about is bringing your whole self to whatever you do, because I think a lot of times we act a certain way because we think an employer would want us to act a certain way, and it's like it'll come off disingenuine, like you won't be happy, it just won't come off right. So I think the experiences that you go through as a first generation student, right? Like bring all of that to the table. You have so much to offer and don't be ashamed of it. And so whenever I think about, you know, the imposter syndrome and all that, it's like, you know, you try to shush it down and say, no, like I am valuable and here's what, how I'm valuable.
Thank you. Brandon.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, reaching out to your network is important. I would say, you know, be intentional about how you do it and always provide context from someone that reaches out to strangers every day and gets them on the phone to try to sell them things. You always got to be upfront about, you know, your relationship or non-relationship and just say, this is why I'm reaching out and I need some help. That's okay. I would say also take this time to develop some technical skill sets. There's a lot of great companies out there like Salesforce and, you know, Harvard Business School that are, you know, releasing tons of free content on, you know, what are databases? What is SQL? You know, as I say, take some time to maybe develop that. You know, YouTube is a great resource as well. There's so much information out there, you know, in the internet that you guys can leverage at your fingertips. And I would say take some time to kind of, you know, learn some skills that you can do today at home. And I would say as a professional, you know, we continue to rely on the internet Google, YouTube for informational videos about how to do things. You're not going to learn it all. Your employer's not going to teach you it all. So you kind of have to go on your own. But I would say, during this time, take some time for yourself. It's definitely going to be a lot challenging getting jobs, and employers are going to be, there's going to be just more applicants for specific jobs that are open. But if you can set yourself apart by doing a bit extra to start training yourself on the technical side, that can go a long way.
Thanks, Brandon. Javier.
Yeah, the piece of advice that I have for students is to be open-minded about any opportunities that come your way, and don't let your major define your career. So, sometimes we tend to develop the Hannu mentality that because we major in a specific major, for example, sociology. So we believe that that's what we are supposed to do after we graduate. So, and when we do that, we develop in that Hannu mentality, which is gonna prevent us from looking around and seeing what other opportunities are out there, because this is the only thing that we want to do. Plus, when we major in something, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's, that we're gonna end up in that specific field in the future. We do possess a lot of skills, more than those technical skills that we do develop throughout school. We have the soft skills, the skills that can be marketable and applicable in different work settings.
Thank you. Adonta.
Yeah, I'll echo some of what was shared. So I think just one, like by attending opportunities like this and continuing to, this is just demonstrating your commitment to your career readiness. And you're getting to hear about all these different pathways in order to achieve what your goals might be. So that's just number one. Number two, and this echoes on, I think, something that Brandon said, which was stay connected. And one just recommendation again is if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, always have a message of why you want to connect with them. And then I encourage you, once you do make that connection, to ask for 20 to 30 minutes of their time in the upcoming weeks so you can get to know and hear about their pathway and their story. And finally, in that conversation, ask if there's anyone else in their network that they recommend you connect with. This is a great time to start to just build those relationships. But for me, that's been most helpful, just to understand different stories to help me understand where I might want to go. And then lastly, just find moments to preserve your own wellness and health. Like there's a lot happening in this world right now. And if you're not well, as much as an opportunity might come up, you might not be in the best mental state to go into that opportunity. So definitely encourage you all to find that time.
Thank you so much, Adonta. And Joe, to close things up.
Yeah, Adonta, you stole mine about mental health. I come from mental health. So prior to my work in tech, I was in mental health. So spot on, really making sure you're taking care of yourself. I think another one to be more reflective in the like what's to come, or when you are now in the immediate interview process, or you're trying to pitch yourself, rather than run away from like the hustle or the struggle that you have as a first gen student, turn around and like run into it and own the hustle and the struggle. Because in my time that I've been interviewing candidates, the moments or the gold nuggets have been when people who have through that hustle and struggle have been able to then showcase skill sets like scrappiness or grit, right? Like I think those are key qualities that one can get from that hustle and struggle. And so, I say it to say, run into your hustle and struggle and own it, because I think that's where you'll be able to identify some key skill sets that maybe distinguish yourself from other folks.